Hi, everyone. Welcome to um, How to Stand Out on Stage. I am Lisa Gold. I am the Executive Director of A4, the Asian American Arts Alliance, and I'm really thrilled to bring these expert voices to you all tonight. Um, Before we get started, I'd like to introduce Justine Lee from my team and Andy Chang from 90 Chen Dance Company. Andy is our partner in presenting. Andy, do you want to say a few words? You need to unmute yourself if you do.
Hi, everybody. Great to see all of you. It's a nice, pre-Thanksgiving uh, event for us to get together, and I want to take this opportunity to thank our presenters, guests who come and really lend their voices to this whole program. It's a really new dimension for this program, and as you know, 90 Chen Dance Company is one of the few professional Asian American dance companies. And we really wanted, after 90s passed away, we really want to make ourselves and make our connections and make our resources available to everyone in the field, every Asian American especially. So these efforts are really part of this whole process. So I just wanted to thank Lisa for contributing so much to make this happen, and Justine takes so much time as well to make this. This is one of the highlights certainly in my season. So thanks very very much, and I look forward to working with all of you in the next couple months.
Great. Thank you, Andy. Um, so we are presenting this um, opportunity to learn from these esteemed panelists as a precursor to the A4 and 90 Chen Asian American Pacific Islander Dance Showcase at APAP. So I hope you all will come back and join us January 10th and 11th. The information is on our website, so we look forward to seeing you then. So joining us tonight, like I said, first of all, I do, of course, I want to thank our presenters, but I also want to give special thanks to our friends at the Howard Gilman Foundation and the Marks Gilmore Foundation for making this event possible, as well as the whole APAP Dance Showcase. So we're very grateful for that. Um, First off, Kim Chan. Kim is an artistic director at Jacob's Pillow Dance Festival, where she serves on the curatorial team and manages the programming, school production, archives, and community engagement departments. Michael Sakamoto is an interdisciplinary artist, scholar, educator, and curator active in dance, theater, performance, media, photography, installation, and social practice. He does so much, and he currently serves as the Performing Arts Curator and Asian American Arts and Cultures Program Director at UMass Fine Arts Center. And Justin is currently the General Management Associate at the New 42 New Victory Theater. He has worked at the New York Theater Workshop and Prospect Musicals and TT Partners, and he is a transplant from San Francisco. Thank you all for joining us. So I think what I'd like to do is just start off with you all just sharing a little bit about your organizations, what you do, what you present. Um, if we want to start, and oh, sorry, let me just back up a little bit. I'm really excited to be able to present three different perspectives. Justin and New Victory does a lot of like children's family type of programming. Jacob's Pillow is known as this very exquisite dance festival, and Michael is with a university. So everybody has a slightly different way of working, different venues, different sizes, different things. It will be a very interesting conversation. I'm sure we're all going to learn a lot. So I'm going to start with you, Kim, if you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing and yeah, what happens at Jacob's Pillow?
Sure. So Jacob's Pillow is, I think, one of the country's longest running international dance festivals. we just finished our 93rd festival and we're heading into year 94. And it has traditionally been a summer festival, but in within the past 10 years has really evolved into a year-round program where we have artist residencies called Pillow Labs year-round. And with the opening of the new Doris Duke Theater this past summer, we also now have performances in the non-summer months. We also have an extensive archives and a school. And we will be hosting this January our very first winter intensive in the school. And we have a new school director, Gerald Cassell, and a new archives director, Sarah Nguyen. And we exist both to educate, to present, to commission, to nurture dance, and to document it is our mission.
That's awesome. Thank you. Justin, do you want to talk a little bit about New Victory and what you do there?
Yes, hi, I'm Justin. I work for the New 42nd Street in the New Victory Theater. Just the New 42nd Street is the overarching nonprofit organization in charge of our studio buildings and the theater. Specifically, I work in the programming department, which is responsible for all of our main stage season productions, as well as the Summer Dance Festival that we put on. And I help out doing the contracts and liaising with all the companies, as well as the company management and hospitality. And as Lisa said, we are the, I guess, premier children and family focused theater in Times Square. We
Great.
do, yeah.
Thanks. Okay, Michael?
Hi, folks. I am the Director of Programming or Performing Arts Programming at the University of Massachusetts Amherst Fine Arts Center. We're in the middle of our 50th anniversary season. We opened in 1975, and we're a pretty typical regional, semi-rural performing arts, university-based performing arts center. We're at the flagship of UMass campus. It's 33,000 students, but a lot of small towns, only a couple of sort of moderate-sized cities in the region. So I always like to tell people that what we program, if you look at a spectrum or a continuum of like totally mainstream, lowest common denominator, and totally out there avant-garde experimental, we're sort of the middle 70% of that spectrum from one sort of end to another. And we do about 2 to 3 dozen shows a year, depending on the season. And that those are all different sizes, everything from whatever fits or can't fit anywhere else. We put in our main stage up to 1,800 seat theater. We have a 650 seat moderate sized proscenium, as well as partnering with a number of campus and off-campus smaller venues, everything from a 200 seat recital hall to a 160 seat multi-use old acoustic chapel space to a couple of local music clubs in town. And just quick correction, I've put, and sorry, there's probably an old bio of me floating around somewhere where you got the info, Lisa. We did just recently hire, just 3 months, we're 3 months into our brand new Asian and Asian American Arts and Culture Program Director, a new one, Purna Venugopalan, who we're super, super having fun and excited to be working with. So just expanding the field.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you. So I think like one of the questions we had a number of people who are in attendance here have already posited a few questions. So let's start out with that. So I mean, people are interested. These are a lot of dancers, dance companies, choreographers, and they'd like to know how can they show at your venue? What is your process of discovering and discovering artists, and how do you invite them to present? How does that work? Kim, can you talk a little bit about it from uh, the Jacob's Pillow perspective?
Sure. So at Jacob's Pillow, I am part of the curatorial team, which includes our executive and artistic director, Pam Taji, and our associate curator, Melanie George. And the three of us collectively see a lot of dance in person and on video and determine in conversation with our director of technical production and our producing director, Jason Wells and Holly Jones, what the shape of our season and presentations will be. So we are specifically looking for a, a breadth of dance forms and as well as dance artists at different points in their career. Um, and it is a really hard place to be in because there's always more artists that you want to present than you can. And there's always more shows than you can physically attend, even with three of us sharing the workload, and more videos than you have time to watch. So we try to be as diligent as possible and understand that um, it takes time. Um, Luckily for me, I love looking at dance. I have loved doing that since I was a child. And so I would probably go to 7 or 8 shows a week, even if I didn't have this kind of job. So, so it's easy to keep myself motivated because it's what I like to do. I think that um, the the thing for artists who are based in New York to know is that in New York, every week is APAP week. It's really hard. So even with 3 or 4 of us trying to cover everything, we always know we miss at least half of what is possible. And that's the hardest part is knowing you can't see everything. And then also you can't just be New York centric, right? You need to see and be aware of and give opportunities to artists from outside New York. And in those instances is where the video really plays a heavy role. I would say that in looking at video, excerpts and trailers are less helpful than full-length pieces. Um, and that while it's fantastic that I don't have to carry bags of videotapes around with me the way I did in the 90s when I was a curator in DC, the great thing about the old school videotapes was I could watch it in fast forward and get a sense of the piece, and you can't do that on Vimeo. So and so anyway, so those are parts of our research. And
Okay,
we
great.
also try to talk to other presenters and be like, so what are you seeing? Who are you interested in? And other artists who come through.
Have you spoken to Michael? What is Michael, what's your process? How do you discover artists and decide to present them?
Yes, yes, we have checked in. Because we all do, right? Like we always. So actually, I'll start there. So, you know, just like all artists talk to each other and all agents talk to each other, a lot of presenters talk to each other, and I've actually did that twice this week. I checked in with two other regional presenters, and I've got a number of because we're deep into booking season, and I've got a numerous email threads going that were generated by myself or by others who were trying to kind of hone in on everything from block booking certain artists or just, learning more to, I think, some of the points that Kim was making about, why it really comes down to like why this artist, why this group now, beyond issues of quality, excellence, et cetera, appropriateness for mission or program the timing, the old cliche of timing is everything is not 100% true, but it's about 96% true for most things in life, including as far as I'm concerned, because we can't be all things to all people, and we only have so much resources. We can only present so many shows and artists a year. Why them now? Why this season? Why in 26, 27, when fall 26 is going to be a really rough and tumble, federal election, midterm season when people are just going to be feeling some kind of way and are they even going to want to go out? And And if so, then what? What's going to be happening with all the cray-cray that's going on in the country in the next 12 months? So, it's a lot of that kind of decisioning. And otherwise, yeah, it's just the normal stuff of, you see as many shows as you can, wherever you can. Um, you go to conferences, you meet folks, you talk to as many people as possible. You just build that sort of internal and external network of information of people and opinions you trust, and knowing why you trust them. Like, everybody's opinions matter in the way that they do. So I will often call or email someone who I might not normally, because they may have a very specific perspective that gives me insight into a specific artist. I guess what I'm saying is I try not to have like general uh, criteria for evaluating people beyond sort of like the sort of principles that I'm talking about right now. Um, and then yeah, and then I would just add dialoguing with artists when possible. It's usually, or it's more often not possible, just because of the way the field and a lot of the quote industry is structured. But it's great when I can talk to an artistic director or an artist and say, okay, so what we're thinking about this project, but we're not sure if it fits for XYZ reasons. So can we talk? And then we may find out something else. Those conversations have led to, like, oh, I really wanted that program, but now I realize after talking to you, this over here makes so much more sense. And I didn't realize that that's actually more important to you when I thought it was this. So the having that one-on-one is priceless. So.
That's great that you can make those connections and conversations happen. Justin, how does it work at New Victory?
Pretty much the exact way that both Kip and Michael have been describing, honestly. Our
Yeah.
artistic team will be reviewing any materials submitted, that's videos or trailers or whatever, as well as attending whatever shows they're able to see, getting invites, and any other peeking at other people's festival lineups or any other seasons from other presenters as well. I will echo what Michael is saying about really building that relationship. I do think that that's actually possibly more important than just your one-off submission. Because again, it really is about timing. Like, hey, maybe your piece isn't fitting into our festival lineup for whatever reason. We already have three ballet pieces. But if you have something else that you can pitch to us, or if you're thinking about your next project down the line, and it also sounds interesting, then yeah, that relationship is a lot more valuable than just you submitting your video piece to us.
So, Justin, do you take unsolicited applications? Can anybody submit a video to you?
And yes, anybody can. I will say seeing something live is still going to be the priority. It's still much easier to evaluate a dance piece in person than just some far back archival recording,
Mhm.
even if we can see the whole piece. Yeah, we accept submissions on a rolling basis. Yeah.
Okay, we will follow up with you for that information. Um, yeah, so I guess, Kim, it sounds like you probably do not accept just blind submissions, or do you?
We actually do,
Okay.
and we receive them in different ways. So there is a link on our website where people can upload something, and I will find that link and put it in the chat while the next person talks. But we also get a lot of emails. So people do it by email as well. There's not a formal way to to do it, and we do our best to stay on top of the emails. It may take a while to get a response, but we do try, and the same with the unsolicited applications. I will say that when I first started here, we did consider should there be a formal application process, and and sadly, we don't have the internal staff to manage an application process. Um, that would require people to like put a pen, to navigate all of that. So we just do it the sort of old school way where here's people who self-nominated as opposed to um, I don't know. It's a lot of work. I'm also on the board at the MAP Fund, and I think the last round of grants, we got like over 1,600 grants or something like that. And I'm like, well, if we did that, like we couldn't, like, I don't know, watching 1,600 videos and reading through applications is a lot of work. We maybe get like three or 400 through the website portal. So that's a little bit more manageable.
Gotcha, gotcha. Michael, you noted here in the chat that you've booked a number of artists after knowing them or knowing about them. So how often are you booking from a cold application if you do take those versus, a relationship that you've already established with an artist?
It's any and all the above. I would just echo, everything all three of us are saying in that. And to that point, I put my email in the chat just now if anybody wants it. Yeah, we don't have a portal for submissions. We just take things the way they come, which is just as they do over time. We talk to a lot of folks on our team talk to a lot of artists, a lot of agents and managers and other presenters and just people in the field. Sometimes just, people in audiences, other arts, not even, I mean, yes, of course, other arts professionals, but also sometimes it's just, people who could sort of understand the work. Like I will strike up conversations when I go to shows with all kinds of folks in a lobby or who I happen to be sitting next to. And that will often give me, it's just part of my process. It will often give me some great ideas. My little comment in the chat about knowing people a long time, that was just sort of echoing, I think, some of the conversation we were having a few minutes ago, which is things just also sometimes take time. Like there are some great, amazing artists who I love personally, or I know a lot of people love for what a number of reasons, who maybe I just didn't have, it just didn't make sense for a number of reasons to book them until the moment was right when all those stars aligned. Maybe I couldn't afford them yet, or maybe they were touring a show that was right for all kinds of other places, but not for our venue, wherever I was at a certain time. Um, there's so many factors that go into a decision. Um, Honestly, some people aren't ready for certain types of gigs. They have to build up to it. I mean, and I say that as a touring artist myself for the last 30 years, and um, so when a presenter says to me, because when I'm pitching them for my show, and they say, I always love it when they just say, I can't get you an audience, or your show's not big enough for my theater, or your show is too big for my theater. And I'm like, great, let's have a drink now that the tension is gone, now that the ice is broken. Now we can just be friends and colleagues. And like maybe in 5 years you will book me, or maybe in 5 years I'll want to block book with you in my day job. Like this is just we all just have to be people, at the end of the day. That's my mantra.
That's great. Okay, so you all like kind of take applications, you all see a lot of video. Obviously, you see a lot in real life too. I'm going to ask you, Justin, what stands out to you in an application? Like what gets somebody noticed?
I will be completely honest. I am not the one fully evaluating. I do help go see, but I am not the decision maker. That being said, I think it goes back to actually what Michael was saying. A lot about it. Why this piece? Why now? Really does speak to us. World is always changing. We're always responding to different events. For our audience specifically, being mostly children, occasionally families, but for our dance programs, mostly school-age children, what is the messaging that we're sending to them? It's especially important. And how that stands out is going to be really your media. I know we're harping a lot on video, but really quality of being able to see everything in a full-length video is important, as well as clear and defined pictures. Very helpful.
Great. Yeah, Kim, anything you want to say that really stands out in an application?
Well, I think it starts with the work sample, right? So it's really um, it's what you can see either in video or online. Is there that magic moment that makes you think, oh my God, I have to follow this artist wherever they go, right? Or like I remember watching a lot of videos last year and seeing a video by one artist, and it just felt instinctively like this would look fantastic on our outdoor stage, right? And so it 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 is that kind of that magical moment that makes you think I can find an audience for this, or that makes you think I'm not sure who the audience is, but I love it so much I want to find that audience. I have also been in that place, and then that's a negotiation with the marketing department. And then there's also just things that you know your audience will love, like
Mhm.
no questions asked. Like Alvin Ailey is a no-brainer. Um, and so, and then I'm trying to think what else stands out. The quality of the dancers.
Mhm.
Sometimes I like the dancers more than the choreography. Sometimes I like the choreography more. Ideally, I like them both the same. But the other thing at the Pillow, because we operate as a curatorial team, is we advocate with each other. And because each curator sees something different, that it actually that conversation we have as a team deepens my understanding of different artists' work. And it actually, in the old school kind of impresario model of presenting, where it's all about what I see, what I really love about the curatorial team process at the Pillow is I get to see what someone else sees and prioritizes it. And it changes, it makes me more open and
Mhm.
it makes it more exciting. So, so I'm not one of, I'm obviously, I love that group process. And I think that that process also opens doors for more artists because there's not a single, like experience that's informing how the decision is made. It's a collective.
That's interesting. Is it the same process, Michael, at UMass? Is it a collective or are you the final say so?
It's both. My we really try, and I think this works this similarly at a lot of sort of mid-size, staffing wise, organizationally
Mhm.
structural mid-size presenters like Fine Arts Center. We have about 2.5 plus, but like 28 to 30 employees on average at any given time. And my department fluctuates between about three or four. Right now we're at four, two curators, myself, and then program manager, admin manager, and we really share a lot of information with each other. We also have occasionally worked with outside consultant curators, depending on the series, something we felt an expertise we felt we lacked at a certain moment, or we wanted to amp up for some reason because now was the time to do that.
Mhm.
Uh, Jazz, for example, we worked with an outside consultant 3 years in a row. Um, and then, but you know, I think for what it comes down to in terms of your question also about criteria, and what we're looking for myself, it's really about the look, vibe, feel of the experience of the work itself. That's where my sort of, spidey sense goes to first. Whether I'm seeing something in person or in a recorded work sample, what is it? I really try and put myself into the place of like, what is this going going to feel like If I'm watching a video, what is this going to feel like if I'm there in person or if someone else is? If I am there in person, actually myself, what might it feel like for others, who I might be trying to present for? Um, and then after that, secondarily, but also of primary importance, um, it's not simply what the work is saying, but what the work is embodying. Like, so because again, it comes down to the experience. You may have certain themes, issues, content, et cetera, that you intend the work to be about. Um, but is that the actual experience? Is it actually what the takeaway is, verbally or non-verbally or psychically or on the down low? What is the takeaway? Is the audience going away with more questions than answers, for example, and I say that because I love work that does that, and it's not just that I love it, I think it's actually important, I feel it's actually my job as a programmer to really, at least to a certain extent or a number of times a year, to make sure that we're doing that job um, as presenters. So I don't know. Those are, I think, the most important things for me.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's helpful. There was actually something that you had said earlier. You had talked about having a conversation with a presenter. And I was just wondering, like, how does somebody get in front of a presenter? Like, how do you get noticed? Like, how did you have that conversation with that person who told you your piece was too small or too big or whatever? How does that work?
Sorry, were you asking
I
me?
was asking you, yeah, because
Oh,
you had
okay.
mentioned like that.
Uh, it happens every other way. I mean, I go out there and I get out there and I try and be as friendly as I can. I think I'm basically a friendly person, and people should just talk to me, and they should just talk to my assistant curator, and or to any of our staff. Um, we often, I mean, right now, because all organizations are in belt tightening mode, we're not going to send as many people to APAP, but we always send at least a few people, and and we all go to shows, and I think, especially I'll just say as public employees, because we work for a state university, I do feel obligated, and this is just my soapbox personally, that because I'm getting paid by the taxpayers of Massachusetts to essentially do my job to nurture civil society. And I might be expected. I probably would say the same thing if I worked for a private institution, but I probably would be told something else if I did as well. But this is we live in a community, and I think I want artists to understand that they should not have any major expectations of me, just like I don't of them to like know everything on the front end. We're all on a path. And so I don't expect any artist to be perfect. Um, I would rather have a dialogue with an artist in a post-show Q&A to be, I love it when they say like, yeah, I know that scene or that dance or that song. I'm still working on it. We're still working on it. And then we have this great conversation from the real time from the audience is like, and the audience is like, oh my God, that's the process. Like that's real art. That's what's involved. I didn't realize that, or I've never had that, after a show. And I love that our audiences have come to appreciate that about us. So,
That's great. Um, Justin, how do I mean from your perspective, like I want to present at New Victory. How do I get noticed by you?
I don't think it's any different. I think it is still just an invitation to see your piece live somewhere, if possible. We do for dance, we do mostly focus on New York local companies. So usually that's not impossible. And then again, going back to Michael, again, building that relationship, talking to us. We're also at various conferences, APAP. We go see shows, strike up a conversation.
Expect to be flooded with invitations from everybody now. Kim, I'm just going to ask you, like, how do you, as a presenter, like to be communicated with? Like, is there a specific etiquette? Are there things that people should do or not do?
Um, I don't think I wouldn't say that I have special rules, or I hope I don't. I guess please be patient because it's hard for me to get control of my inbox. So I may see it, but I haven't responded, but I've seen it. So and then I think also just last year for APAP, I made the decision, no meetings. I'm only going to see work because meetings I can do by Zoom, but in-person work is in-person work. And so I just prioritize that. So everyone who hit me up for a meeting, I was like, I am only seeing work. Um, so I saw more because I didn't have meetings, whereas in my previous dance curator job, I just remember APAP was like meeting, showcase. And so both ways are equally as exhausting. So I didn't really save myself any time. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do this January.
Can I,
Michael?
Kim, can I ask you a question on that? And I think it's relevant maybe for some of the audience, just so they have some insight into kind of timing and timeline of the process. Because I've always wanted to do what you just described, but because our booking season has a hard drop dead stop on March 1st, I can't. I have to go to APAP and have at least a number of important meetings because I have to make a lot of decisions immediately, like literally the next week. Like 5 offers go out the following Monday. Whereas but I know you guys announce your season a little earlier because you're mostly doing summer. So when you go to APAP in January, all or most or all of your decisions about that summer's show festival are already made, correct?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So last January, we were still finalizing some of the artists. And I remember my first January 2024, I was like, it was announced that I was starting, but I had like another week before I started. And I went to Under the Radar and I sat down next to this woman at the table and I introduced myself. And she's like, "Oh, your office just booked me today." And I'm like, "Today?" Because I'm like, I haven't started yet, but congratulations. So, but we will, I can say, we are um, almost done with 2026 right now. And I think it just, the Pillow books on a much later timeline than I used to be at a traditional old school presenter that ran on an academic calendar and everything we did was like 12 to 24 months in advance. So then I would have a schedule like Michael's. But that was in the 90s. So so
So,
I don't know that there's a right way to approach it. It's really like, how do you pace yourself? So, how do I pace myself? I have virtually no social life the entire month of December. So everyone else is like, "Oh, December's so exhausting. It's the holidays." And I'm like, "No, I introvert in December because I've got January." So, that's how I know how to manage going to 30 shows a week. But
um,
also, my happy place is going to 30 shows a week. So,
thanks.
That's a lot
I
of
just
shows.
wanted to add something which I heard from Michael saying. I think I want to emphasize it to our audience here is what he used the word does the work embody, right? And it's really hard, I think, for a lot of younger artists, even for older artists, to realize how important that is and how to find other people in your circle to recognize what that embodiment really is. And for us, for the 90 Cent Dance Company, we'll actually have a bunch of people who come to see and advise artists or advise Naini at the when she was here with us, um, so that we understand, what we want to say may not come across, and can we really embody what we're saying? And really, I think over the years, it becomes one of the most important thing we do, which is really understand what your vocabulary and what your things are doing to people. So I just wanted to bring that out because I think that's such an interesting and important point because every curator, they are also looking for that. Does it, you know, does it say what you intend to do? Or maybe sometimes it doesn't, but it achieves something else. And that again is a different conversation. But anyway, I wanted to just bring that up and that's a very important practice I wanted to encourage people to do. And that's one of the reasons why I think we need to build an Asian American community here so that we can be open to each other and about each other's work. And really build that vocabulary of embodiment, I guess. So thank you.
Thanks,
And I
Andy.
also wanted to say that it is also true that we have the 90 Dance Company itself, being around for this long, I've met presenter who said, I've come to your showcase every year for 7 years now. And I said, have you booked? No. So it's
Someday.
about timing.
It's about timing. But this is interesting too. Okay, so, and Michael, you noted this too. Like some presenters are very forthright and they'll say, sorry, I can't do this. Justin, what do you think if somebody doesn't explicitly say, I can't book you now? Like, what is the etiquette on following up? Like, should I continue? I mean, maybe your inbox is like overflowing like Kim's. Is it okay to send you a follow-up like every 3 months or how do you keep up and stay in front of a presenter when they don't give you a definitive answer?
Yeah, I mean, I think follow-up is necessary if you're an artist trying to be seen. Obviously, you don't want to come off too strong or too often because that just gets annoying. I think what's is helpful is again what I was saying, like a call to action or having some update about a piece, having an invitation to go see something new. Um, Checking in for the sake of checking in can be good just as a reminder, but again, this kind of alludes to what my other two presenters were saying, like we're all on different timelines. You checking in 3 months later may not change anything if I'm booking 6 to 12 months out. Like I may not be looking at the next season at that point. Um, so also, yeah, it might be helpful to just be mindful of timelines as well. But yes, definitely continue to follow up, especially if you have an update of some sort.
Yeah. What do you think, Kim?
Um, I think that yes, follow up. If you don't get an answer, that doesn't mean that it's not been read. Like, I just remembered like 3 emails from 6 months ago that I should respond to this week because I'm at the Pillow and I don't have shows to go to at night this week. Um, I think I guess what I want to really say is like I'm really lucky to be a curator and to have a job that invites me to offer artist opportunities. And it is very sad that I can't offer opportunities to everyone that I love or that everyone that I know on the curatorial team loves, who they also, and that what for me, that's important about artist communications with presenters and funders and agents and managers is that we share an ecosystem together. And what's really important to me and the way I was raised in this business is that it is through that kind of mutual support and dialogue and relationship building that we can move our field forward. And that in this moment of extreme vulnerability, do not feel like, oh, I can't reach out to Jacob's Pillow or to, the New Victory or University of Massachusetts. Reach out to us. We will do our best to try and get to you. We are aware of the extreme fragility in the field, and we don't have an immediate fix. But if we put our collective minds together, I feel like we can find a way through. And in this moment, that's what we need is that collective action and organizing. Because um, the old school ways of thinking I'm going to have a career that's going to bring me to A and B, like that doesn't, like that world is gone. And for the artists who are here and listening, if you haven't listened to Miguel Gutierrez's podcast series, Are You for Sale? I highly recommend that as insights into what is this ecosystem that I just walked into or that I'm trying to survive in.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kim. Very good advice. Michael, do you have anything to add about staying in touch, following up?
No, I mean, I would echo literally every syllable that Kim just spoke. She described exactly, like you totally read my mind, Kim. I mean, but just in terms of staying in touch, yeah, just stay in touch means stay in touch. I mean, like uh, Justin and Kim, we've all said earlier, just keep it up. Yeah, and I've seen all those your emails, like Kim mentioned. I can't get to them all. Nobody can get to them all. I get literally, I don't even know how many emails I get in a day. I just know sometimes when I count them up by 11 a.m., it's like 20 or 30 already. And that's no joke. Like that is literally my everyday, most of the year. So,
I feel that.
and yeah, and and some of that, there are essential things a lot of us don't have time to get to. And I just say that not as like a boo-hoo. It's more like, I think, what one thing I love and appreciate about being since becoming a full-time presenter in my career, because I've been a full-time presenter, I've been a full-time educator, I've been a full-time administrator in other types of administrative capacities. I've done production full-time. Um, and I've been a working artist part-time for 30 years. We all need to understand each other more in terms of our various vocational sort of spheres. I think most artists don't understand what it takes to keep the doors open of a venue, and I think most presenters don't either understand or sympathize enough, at least, with how literally hand to mouth working artists' existence really is. And I think we all need to give each other some more grace. So, and that goes in just like how we all approach a conversation.
Yeah, it's it's challenging on every side. Um, Justin, how many shows or artists do you book typically in a season?
Actually, so for our main season, which runs along the school year, we do around 9 to 10 different companies and shows. And then for our summer dance festival, we also do 9 different companies
Mhm.
over the course of 3 weeks.
And Kim, how many?
What is the
I'm sorry,
company?
approximately how many companies or, performances do you book at Jacob's Pillow during the
Okay.
season?
So for the summer season in 2026, we will have 10 weeks in the Ted Shawn Theater, um, 7 companies in the Doris Duke Theater, and nine, and those weeks are multi-performances by single companies. Then on our outdoor stage, which is my personal favorite stage because it's so beautiful, we will have 3 shows a week for 9 weeks. And then in the spring season, which will be the first time we're doing a spring season in the new Doris Duke Theater, we're looking at 2 weeks and then 2 weeks in the fall season. And then the artist residency season, which runs an academic calendar, is between 8 and 10 artists. But that is also a program where we are spending down the last large grant to support that program. And so we have some smaller grants that will keep it going. Um, but I don't know that it will sustain it. Those are, I just don't know that we'll be doing 8 to 10 a year without some, without a different um, financing model. So, for example, one of the artists this year that we worked with had a large grant, and she needed a venue to work out of. And so that residency was a fiscal partnership, basically a co-presentation, right? So so anyone who wants to have a conversation about creative financing of a residency at Jacob's Pillow, give me a call.
Are any of you willing to talk about how you pay artists? Like how much? I mean, obviously it ranges quite a bit, but is there anything you're willing to divulge that would be helpful to the artists here?
I think what's useful is to talk about process at least,
Okay.
without talking about specific fees, because that's. I mean, I say that as we're a public institution, so if anybody, our contracts, are actually public record, but you know, I think we all budget according to what's feasible, and what that is completely 100% different for every organization. Um, at UMass, because as those of you who know what's been happening in higher education over the last 30, 40 years, the slow sort of dissolution of academia, not just the ivory tower, but academia itself, and the corporatization of it. We're constantly dealing with how not to be a business because we're constantly being made to function like one. And so at this point, there's a lot of income expense that I have to think of on the front end, and I have to have some pretty annoying for both sides, and complicated conversations with a lot of artists and artist reps. And I'm saying, your work's amazing. We have an audience for you. There's no way in hell we can afford you or or at least this show. It's just not going to happen. And I just need to just say that to you and just end the conversation here. And and then just move on. And I'm happy to explain in general terms why. Whereas others, when you see a path, it's like, okay, there's a path, but we have to get creative together. We've and sometimes we've worked with folks, who we have special access to funding, or they have special access to funding, and we meet each other in the middle there. And it's like, oh, you came with an NDP production residency funding, as well as for a gig. And that means we can actually lean in further because staff time is ironically in some ways the least expensive thing for us. And we can like work our butts off to get you all kinds of community education, engagement, outreach, activity that, really speaks to your mission and ours. So it's like it's a different conversation every time. Um, but yeah, money's a pain in the ass. So sorry, just saying.
Justin, you want to add anything to that?
I think I'll add two different things. I think one, just coming from the presenter's side, and this is encouragement or advice to the artists. The fee that we offer you is one all-inclusive fee. And so that has to cover everything on the artist side. Got to cover all of your production expenses to put on things, your props, your set, if you have any, your costumes or whatever, as well as all of your salaries, but also just your business overhead. If you have insurance, if you have an office space, if you need rehearsal space, it should cover all of that if the venue is not providing anything to you in those ways. I think a lot of venues try to give you additional support. I know for the New Victory, we have a lot of different departments for marketing, for education, that all these things that surround the show. But a lot of it is still on the artists, unfortunately. And so going along with that, I think know your worth and know what it takes for you to operate, basically. Doing business here in New York is expensive. It's expensive to live here. So don't lowball yourself if you just to get a gig, I think. Yeah, that's all I got to offer.
That's great. I think people want to ask some questions. So if you all don't mind, I'm going to invite all of our attendees to turn on their cameras. And if you would like to ask a question, you can just raise your hand in your virtual hand because I can't see everybody. Justine will help me select
Can
people.
I just add
Oh,
something
sure,
about
of course, Kim.
fees?
Sorry, sure, sure.
Just to say that that back in the 80s, because I'm old, when the National Performance Network was founded, that really created a national standard by which independent artists were paid. And 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 that those fees and that pay scale is publicly available through the NPN website. And so for emerging artists, I say go there. That was the first time in the industry where I think artists actually get a fee for their administrative overhead. So I will also say they're not big fees, right? And they're also at the end of some of their funding cycles. But that I know Works in Process also posts their fees. I think the Baryshnikov Art Center for the artist residencies post their fees. The Pillow Lab residencies at the Pillow pay $120 per person per day for up to 9 people for 10 days. So I think that's like a bare minimum. And one of the things that I was charged to do when I started at the Pillow was to do a national scan of fee scales. And I was quite shocked to find out that the NPN, when I left the field in the late 90s was the national standard and everyone complained about it. And it's gone up a little, but it's still the national standard like 20 years later. So there are ways that you can find, like if you're early career, mid-career, that's sort of bare bones to for research. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Thanks, Kim. Um, yeah, does anybody have any questions for our presenters? I know you do.
Yeah, I also want to add that I think based on our current out of town touring, usually for even for the 90s and dance coming, often do not pay for itself. It's really just very, very hard, especially with everything going up. And and the flight is unknown. I mean, it's really depend on when the presenter book you and if anything is happening around So it's really difficult. And for now, I guess I just want to let you guys all know that for me, I've always said that out of town for at least for a dance company like ours is not possible to it's very, very rare we break even.
Thanks for sharing that, Andy, that insight. Any questions from the group? Feel free to raise your hand or just jump right in. Natty?
Hi, this is Nadi speaking. Thank you all so much for everything you shared. It was so cool to hear like the overlapping and the different perspectives. My question is, I guess um, I would love to hear about like you don't have to give names or anything, but like maybe specific examples of how relationships like led to like a engagement or something. And I think Michael alluded to many years, and you're talking about the emails and stuff. And is there like a case or um a company or an artist that you remember like meeting a long time ago and like where they are now and how that relationship is now? Just to kind of help us state like really visualize how that something like that would work. Thank you.
I'll just throw something in on the artist side. I guess I'll mention. Just like that art presenter I told you that who comes in for 7 years already, I knew that presenter is gonna. And also, if people come to see you year after year in your showcase, it's very likely that something will happen. So it's being out there and engaging, and the indication if somebody spent their time coming to APAP and coming to see you twice, that's a very big deal. So I think it's important to recognize who is talking to whom. Okay, and who's really interested in you.
I think actually that's a good point, Andy. I mean, I know that's true for me as a presenter, and I know it's been true for me as an artist. And I think actually I will even go one step further, and I would perhaps echo that it's probably true even if you don't end up booking someone, because the reality is you do have an affinity, an affection, or a like or a love for an artist or a certain type of work. And I always am open to conversations again with other presenters, other artists, other professionals to talk about work and to lift up, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, work that maybe I don't have the ability or opportunity or appropriateness to present or to host, myself or through our organization. But we're part of an ecology, as someone mentioned earlier. And I think it's really important for us to always remember to lean into that in the myriad small ways we can.
So I have a case study,
Please share.
but um, it's not from the dance world. It's from the theater-ish world. When I was in DC for many years, um, Ping Chong and Company, Bruce Allardyce was always very diligent about always looping us into where Ping is at. And my boss at the time, Doug Wheeler, is like him. There's no experimental theater audience in DC. It's experimental dance and theater, and um, and so we would just keep having those conversations. It's not the right time. We can't afford it. We don't really have the audience. I love you, Bruce. I love you, Ping. We're looking. And then a funding opportunity came to do something. And that's what we needed because suddenly then we saw the jigsaw pieces coming together. But this is after 15 years of conversations and many dim sums later. There is that funding opportunity that makes it happen. But none of us knew if we would ever get it, right? And then that funding opportunity, which we got, some random PBS producer from I forget, some famous Bill Moyers or someone like that came to a show and did a whole PBS documentary series about show on Ping's work with refugees, which led to another production. So again, 15 years of like, we love you, but, and then here's a crazy grant, should we try? And then it turns into a national television show and a production with a social service agency. So these things happen, but that's where I think the relationships come in, right? And the patience.
Um, I'd like to actually piggyback on that. I have another quick example. This one actually from the dance world. So, we have at Fine Arts Center, UMass, we are the only sort of I'll just say really appropriate main stage in the western side of the state for concert dance. There is other presenters do concert dance, but we're kind of the only ones that are like a traditional main stage proscenium for it in our region of the state. Which means we usually do at least one or two legacy type companies every year. But as a curator and just as someone, who feels obligated to kind of deal with the fact that we're living in the times that we do and in the early 21st century, what does that even mean anymore? Um, and so there, I'm not going to name names, but there was a company, a legacy company that uh, was famous for doing really beautiful work, but also for doing a lot of museum pieces. And to be fair to them, that's what audiences, their audiences and their presenters' audiences were used to prioritizing and valuing because that's just 90% of what there was. But the new artistic director who was hired a number of years ago also knew that they needed to move into the 21st century and in a real way and in a diverse way and outside of just simply Western dance lineage, not just going into contemporary, but like, in non-Western forms. And when I saw that work, then all the light bulbs went off for me. And actually, I saw them at the Pillow. This was like 3 years ago, and I was like, that piece, like I don't care what else I don't care what other museum pieces you put on the program. We need that piece because I know how our audience is going to walk out the door after seeing a museum piece, a really nice, maybe 30-year-old piece, and then that from the same dancers in an hour and a half. And so those are the kind of like really special moments. And that artistic director, I'd known about the company since I was a kid. But I was honestly, I was kind of bored. And then the artistic director I met through a dance conference. Actually, it was ACDA years and years ago. And when we were both just professors. And, but because we knew each other that way, we kind of trusted each other. We just knew each other as people. And that relationship paid off. We were both in the right place at the right time to help each other out and to lift up our audience. So
That's amazing. So what I'm hearing is relationships, networking, networking, networking. Don't be afraid to come up to people. When you see Kim at the audience at New York City Center, go introduce yourself, say hello. When you see Michael at ALE Studios for our APAP showcase, go up and say hello. Um, go to the New Victory, say hi to Justin. You'll probably see him out looking at shows too. So um, just asking people to, yeah, be patient, understand what it's like on the other side, stay in touch, share new developments, um, send good samples that reflect the essence of your piece and your work. Anything else that I missed of these pearls of wisdom that were shared with us tonight? Anybody want to add anything? Kim?
I want to say that the state of dance presenting is maybe more fragile than the state of being an independent artist right now. That there are not a lot of presenters who are invested in dance. And those of us who are would love to advocate with you to think of ways to get people to stand up and pay attention to this art form. That yeah, it just it's an expensive art form, and I always encourage presenters who are kind of shy about it, like just go see work, right? Like don't, if you're programming, go see work you think you won't present because you never know. You have to have a curiosity. And that's, I think, what we to create more opportunities for artists, we need more presenters who are curious and willing to take that risk. And I don't know what the answer is to that, but maybe Asian American Arts Alliance can help us figure out how do we build that cohort in partnership with artists.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, yes, we'll be having more convenings, more opportunities to support and present artists. So we're trying with our showcases and our Jadon Wong Fellowship and other um, professional development that we're doing for artists. So we're all trying to do our part here in the ecosystem. But if we don't have any more questions, I want to thank you all so much for sharing your time with us, um, and for being so open to accepting Like, unsolicited applications. Justine, you want to share something?
I do see a hand up from Barca.
Oh, sorry, Barca. Feel
No,
free.
hi, sorry to interrupt you. I'm on my phone. I couldn't find the raise hand thing.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank
Don't
you.
worry.
That was so great. I took so many notes, and many things that I've heard in the past. So thank you. My question, um, curiosity, if it's okay, and I feel like the answer is obvious, but I still would love to hear from all of you. The question about why a certain work now, I think is always a little difficult to answer, right? Because oftentimes, as an independent artist or a dance company, we're creating works that feel of of importance to you as an artist in that moment. And so I feel like I can get creative in my head, but how much creativity do we want here? Or, and not to be contrived in the process, of course, of, what actually feels, I don't want to use this word, but I'll say it for lack of a better word, convincing. Is it like, okay, politically, I think Michael, you said something like we're about to see like the midterms, we're not sure if people want to go out, so we have to kind of think about what we present accordingly. It makes sense. But as someone who feels very strongly about what they're doing in this moment, and it might not align with, oftentimes, especially as a percussive Kathak dancer and things of that sort, like politically or culturally to the organization, have you some insight on what to think about?
I mean, you can't be all things. Nobody can be all things to all people. No artist, no presenter, no audience person, nobody, no educator. And I think, no student. I think, you have to just make your work the best way you can. For me, where the nuances come in are, you know, if we're talking about being a professional working artist, and I would say working artist, that could be part-time or full-time, any work worth its, you know, that has value. But um, again, it's what's appropriate. I'm trying to think of a quick example. So um, I work at a flagship public university in a semi-rural, you know, area where off campus it's about an 80+% white population that skews older. And so, and as you can imagine, there's a lot of non-white communities and ostensible or potential audience members who could come, who don't, because they don't necessarily feel welcome at an institution like UMass. And you can argue the reasons are not for that, but that's just a reality. And so, what does it mean to program, for example, you know, let's use an extreme example, activist BIPOC work for the white gaze? Because the reality is most of our audience is the white gaze. And that's not a criticism of it. That's just a thing that is there. Or are you going to try and lean in for certain portions of that other 20% of the population? And it's about the same proportion on campus. It might be 75-25, but it's close. Um, and how much of that population actually cares to hear because they live in this environment about activist BIPOC work? So like, again, you can't take anything personally if your work may be embodying and saying and doing all the things that need to be said right now, someplace with for someone with someone, but maybe not here, maybe it's over there, or maybe it's not there, vice versa. So I don't know. That's how I that's why it matters to me to have these conversations with people.
I also want to chime in on that question, which is on a conversation I had with a very, very well-known music teacher here in New Jersey. And I said that I asked him, I said, how do you deal with the school who always have these issues like conflict resolution and what music, banned books and all these things are coming out in schools. How does your music education really relate to that? And he said, I don't know, but I tell you, I teach Beethoven, and Beethoven speaks to everything that they're talking about. And my job is to tell the school board that Beethoven does everything that they want. And I think that's quite an interesting comment. And I learned from that conversation was maybe 30 years ago. But in a way, if you are making Beethoven work, then I think in some ways you need to think about how does your work deal with the issue of the day. And it's really, and as an artist, we're always strive to try to make that work that, like Beethoven, speak to everything in the way it does. And that's the hard part. I think about being an artist is really to get to a place where Michael Sakamoto agrees that does resolve that issue, because that embodiment is so difficult. And I think that's the challenge to the artist who wants to speak of issues that are facing people today. There are forever issues that we're facing with. But I do believe there are many works out there that actually does, I think programs that you guys present, many of them, you know, you know, function like that. We achieve it through different degrees, and the hope is we can do it, and sometimes we don't.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, Kim or Justin, you have anything else you want to add to that? You don't have to.
I guess, I would encourage you to, given the state of the institutional presenting field, what are networks you have that you can build without institutional presenters? Like in the way that dance theater workshops start at the National Performance Network. Like, what's the next iteration of that idea? I have no idea, but let's who wants to help co-design that, right? Let's figure out what is that conversation. And like I was a dance presenter in DC for 18 years. The best dance event in DC the entire time I was doing that was not anything that I presented or any institutional dance presenter went to presented, but it was the Bhangra Blowout that was organized by a student group at George Washington University. That was my favorite dance thing. I always stopped to go to that. And that was like, it sold out 3,800 people on like $200 worth of Xerox flyers, right? And so, like, where are those networks for all of the dance that all of you are doing? And how can we create that kind of audience and community engagement and enthusiasm? Like, I think there are people out there in the institutional presenting field, like all of us on this call, that would be interested in having those conversations with you.
I just
That's
want
amazing.
I wanted to point out to you about 3 weeks from now, my company will be in the Portuguese Sports Club of Newark. That's how finding those engagements are really super important.
And I think I was just going to ask him, you never saw my synchronized swimming performance competition that I ran when I was at WPA in DC?
I think I had left DC by the time you were there. I was there in like from like the early 80s through to like 2001. So I am old enough to have seen Minor Threat live. I'm that old. As some of my interns once said to me, how could you be that old?
That's hilarious. You're not that old. Okay. Well, I think we got some really great questions. And again, I want to thank you all for just being so frank and open, sharing your wisdom with us. And we really look forward to seeing you all at APAP. So I know you'll be around. So dancers, choreographers, anytime you see somebody with the badge at APAP, they're probably a presenter. Go up and say hi. Um, so get your networking on. Be like Kim, like hunker down and get ready for January. All right. Thank you again, everybody. Justine, is there anything I forgot to mention? Are we all good?
I think we're all good. Yeah, thank you all to our presenters, Michael, Kim, and Justin. We recorded this conversation and we'll be sharing on A4's YouTube channel and also do some promotion on social media so that this can reach other folks. Yeah, thank you so much again. This
Thank
was
you, Michael and Kim and Justin, for sharing your thoughts. Really wonderful to have you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
the invitation and for doing this important work.
Yeah, and
And I think
like Lisa's saying, see you all at APAP. And I just want to end by saying, don't be intimidated by APAP or any other conference. You know, it's a meat market if you approach it like one, but if you approach it to experience it in community, then that's what you'll get out of it. Because you'll find other like-minded people. You know, you just got to give it time.
And just know there are a lot of people without name badges who are there
That's
at the
okay.
shows.
I don't work for APAP. I'm going to say that's okay, but that's because I don't work for APAP.
Well, as a board alumni, the value of
Oh,
registering
right. Oh, yes.
is important,
And
but
we have an amazing artist rate now. It doesn't cost anything to go to APAP for people. Pay your reg.
support your scene, as we used to say in the early days in DC.
Yeah. Sorry, Kim. I meant I didn't I was my brain short circuit. I wasn't thinking about the events where you're supposed to have a badge. So my bad.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a huge, the ecology is deep and it's not always registered.
Right.
All right. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll see you soon.